to start with what just happened over the past 62 minutes on The View. And it's not even one of my wacky View clips for you where we just make fun of Sunny or Joy. I mean, we love those. But this is like legit Joe Biden, who's on, well, you guys will tell me what he's doing here. And I'll tell you what Mark Halperin says. He's on some sort of a rehabilitation tour. Well, okay. Anyway, he goes onto The View, and it wasn't rehabilitative at all.
What happens when Joe Biden stumbles his way through yet another teleprompter mishap while the hosts of The View carry on like everything's perfectly fine? You get a wonderfully chaotic mess, the kind of scene you can't look away from. Enter Megyn Kelly, flamethrower in hand, ready to scorch the set. Today's dive takes us straight into a verbal firestorm where Kelly doesn't just throw shade, she incinerates the whole panel. From Biden's telltale senior moments to Joy Behar's foggy mental lapses, this spectacle is equal parts cringe and comedy. And just wait, the first person Kelly went after, it'll catch you completely off guard. At the same time, Donald, Trump appears to be living rent-free in someone's head. Or maybe it's the other way around. He's been relentlessly name-dropping one particular figure, mentioning them, their family, and their administration over 580 times by late April. That level of fixation, it's veering into therapist's notepad territory. When someone becomes that central to your thoughts, it might be time to look inward and ask what's really going on. During a recent cabinet meeting alone, Trump reportedly brought up this same person 52 times, pointing fingers at them for the economic fallout triggered by his own tariff decisions. And when asked why Trump can't seem to stop blaming them, for everything under the sun, the response was cutting and clear: I beat him. It started like any ordinary Tuesday. Birds sang, coffee machines hissed to life, and somewhere in the background of America's media landscape, Whoopi Goldberg was once again launching an all-out assault on logic. Meanwhile, Joe Biden, legendary for his love-hate relationship with the teleprompter, stepped onto the stage. Naturally, The View decided this was the perfect moment to break out the fake ferns, cue the canned laughter, and pretend this unfolding mess wasn't a slow-motion disaster plowing straight into daytime television. But the performance didn't just derail, it ignited. The air was thick with denial, almost enough to trip the studio's fire alarms. Enter the ever-loyal Dr. Jill Biden, who, like clockwork, stepped in to clean up the mess. As questions swirled about who may have been shielding the president's cognitive decline, she dismissed it all with a confident shake of the head. They're wrong, she said. Joe worked every day, worked really hard. He was a great president. That would have landed better if one of the book authors she discredited hadn't interviewed Ron Klain, Biden's own chief of staff, who recalled the president sincerely believing he was the head of NATO. Klain was in the White House. The authors may not have been, but he certainly was. Odd how that nugget didn't come up around The View's cozy coffee table. Now picture this. Biden shuffles onto the set like a well-meaning grandpa who took a wrong turn and ended up on stage at a high school drama club. The audience? The hosts. Erupt into clapping so awkward and obviously choreographed, it might as well have come with subtitles reading, "Don't lose your job." What was meant to be a warm, uplifting appearance from a sitting president quickly devolved into a bizarre blend of senior hour and sketch comedy, with enough studio spin and strained smiles to power Joy Behar's hair tools for the next decade.
He could barely spit it out.
And he threw that one out there too.
My goodness.
He and Obama are two peas in a pod on this. Sexism and racism, if you didn't vote for her. That's obviously what she thinks too. But the nerve of this guy of all people to come out and say that's why she lost.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal, Megyn. You know they're putting him out there to provide proof of life because a lot of people are wondering. They hadn't seen him in a while. But at some point in every person's life...
But don't worry. America's queen of calm fury, Megyn Kelly, was watching. You know the look. Part disappointed mom, part media hit woman, all razor-sharp focus. As this glitter-dusted disaster played out on screen, Kelly's expression could only be described as the same one you'd give a slice of wet toast or a motivational TikToker explaining how to manifest rent money. And yes, she had thoughts. But Kelly didn't stop at analysis. She went full scorched earth. Her commentary didn't just take aim at the show. It lit the set on fire. turned the teleprompter into kindling, and metaphorically bulldozed whatever remained of the cue cards. Nothing was safe. And then, they actually brought it up. That now infamous moment. A clip rolled of a recent interview where the vice president was asked a direct question: if she would have done anything differently than the current administration over the last 4 years. A golden opportunity to separate herself, highlight lessons learned, or even show leadership. Instead, she gave a glowing review so vague it practically fogged up the screen. "There's not a single thing that comes to mind," she said. That line was instantly spun into political ammunition, and not the good kind. According to reports, the president may have nudged her toward that response. Whether that's true or not, the damage was done. And Megyn Kelly made sure to spotlight it under the hottest possible glare. Let's be real. Watching The View try to manage a Joe Biden appearance is like handing the Olympic torch to a pack of sleep-deprived raccoons and hoping for the best. The expectations are already in the basement, and somehow they still manage to trip over them. Every exaggerated nod, every awkward giggle, every feather-soft, pre-cleared question lobbed in Biden's direction felt less like journalism and more like a team-building exercise in denial. It was less an interview, more a carnival of cringe, all wrapped in cheap sparkle and duct-taped dignity. And then came the moment that truly tested the audience's tolerance for secondhand embarrassment. Biden is fumbling, visibly struggling to process the question, and the hosts are practically telegraphing, "Please just say anything coherent." Sunny Hostin, in particular, looked like she was handing off a flaming baton, hoping Biden would run with it, or at least not drop it on live television. The question itself? Something about whether there were any past decisions he would have changed. A perfectly fair question, unless you're trying to act like it's some kind of unfair. Ambush. The response from the panel? Total deadpan sincerity, as if the absurdity wasn't unfolding right before our eyes. The whole exchange made less sense the longer it went on, like someone trying to explain algebra with interpretive dance. Megyn Kelly didn't just critique the moment, she slow-roasted it. With trademark precision, she drenched it in sarcasm, baked it in disbelief, and plated it under a heat lamp labeled, "How is this show still on the air?" Megyn Kelly didn't walk into this mess armed with cue cards or a glam squad whispering sweet nothings into her earpiece. No, she brought something far more dangerous, critical thinking and a refusal to play dumb. While everyone else on The View was busy patting themselves on the back for surviving another segment without bursting into flames, Kelly was busy doing what no one else dared, applying common sense. Watching her dismantle the charade felt like witnessing someone solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded while the rest of the room was chewing on the colored stickers. She peeled back every awkward moment with the surgical precision of a brain specialist and the glee of someone who had been waiting years for the chance to call out the absurdity of giving Whoopi Goldberg a producer credit. The View tried to pass off Biden's guest spot as a triumph, much like a toddler holding up a finger painting that looks suspiciously like food poisoning on canvas. But Megyn wasn't buying it. She saw the glitter, the glue, and the spin for what it was: political necromancy, with the panel acting as high priestesses of resurrection, desperately trying to breathe life into a moment that was already flatlining. She didn't just offer critique, she incinerated the whole performance. The way she tore through their narrative made the entire set feel like it was seconds away from triggering a wildfire evacuation warning. The level of delusion on display was Olympic tier. At times, it felt like the show should have come with a disclaimer. Sponsored by the makers of Denial, Amos, available in extra strength. And through it all, Megyn didn't flinch. She remained calm, confident, and cutting. Seated, yes, but spiritually towering like a lighthouse beaming across a storm of espresso-fueled confusion. Then came Biden's soundbite. "I've never seen such an effective misogynistic campaign," he claimed, an opening take that left even seasoned pundits blinking in confusion. Wait, what? Biden seemed to be pointing fingers at the Trump campaign, suggesting they orchestrated some grand anti-woman offensive. Sure, Democrats often chalk political outcomes up to systemic bias, but this? It sounded like he'd wandered off script and into a sociology lecture mid-thought. Megyn didn't let it slide. She rolled the tape back to the actual messaging strategies. used during the campaign, the ad slates, the targeted narratives, and reminded viewers that painting your opponent as sexist doesn't automatically make you electable. Especially when you're asking the American public to ignore what's playing out in front of them in real time. Let's be honest, the big issues at play were immigration, crime, and an economy clinging to life support. None of that has anything to do with gender, despite the attempt to frame it otherwise. And that's where The View truly lost the plot. Because they didn't interview Joe Biden. They babysat him. They didn't challenge him. They coddled him. The questions were so sterilized, so flavorless, they made hospital cafeteria oatmeal look like hot sauce. Every time he completed a sentence, without drifting into a ramble about corn pop or whisper shouting for no reason, the hosts clapped like moms at a kindergarten play. It wasn't journalism. It was a standing ovation for getting through the alphabet. The fanfare reached such absurd levels, you half expected the ghost of Walter Cronkite to rise from the grave and demand, "Can someone turn this nonsense down?" Enter Megyn Kelly, wielding the truth like a bat in a batting cage of gaslighting. She didn't just comment, she counterpunched. Every word landed with the weight of someone who's not just fed up, but energized by the spectacle. Her critique wasn't delicate. It came fully loaded, teeth bared, claws out, and with zero patience for the cue card puppetry happening just off camera. She pointed out, plainly, that watching The View pretend everything was fine while Biden stumbled and short-circuited was like watching a family smile nervously as the Thanksgiving turkey catches fire and sets off the smoke alarm. Everyone knows it's a disaster. They just don't want to admit it on camera. This wasn't reporting. This was curated delusion. A group therapy session disguised as daytime talk, where the hosts held each other's hands, closed their eyes, and tried to will a reality into existence. One where Biden is razor sharp, the economy is thriving, and The View still has cultural relevance. Spoiler, none of that is true. And then, as if the illusion wasn't thick enough, one of the hosts leans in, eyes wide with praise, and practically melts as she delivers this line. So here's the thing. Because of your record of tremendous... You could practically hear the script being read aloud in real time. Successes, dear leader. Like, seriously, what kind of question is that? It's basically asking Joe Biden to name his biggest flaw and expecting a coherent answer. But here's the kicker. The vice president's response was so limp it felt like watching someone recite a grocery list in slow motion. And what makes this even more absurd is the political gymnastics behind it all. She's basically saying, I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. I already backed Kamala Harris's run, so I'm just going to hand this one to Joe on a silver platter. She completely declined to distinguish her policies from all the ones Biden had already successfully carried out. What was her reaction when called out? She tried to toss him a softball question, but Biden was so lost he probably thought the ball was a balloon. And then Megyn? She tore the whole act apart like a judge on a reality show watching someone attempt to bake a cake with mayonnaise and wishful thinking. She shredded the phony empowerment vibes, the canned laughter, and those exaggerated gasps of surprise every time Biden blanked on who he was talking to. And for the grand finale, she set the whole charade ablaze. Figuratively, of course, the best part? Megyn wasn't fueled by anger. She was surgical, precise, cool, and controlled, like a high-end executioner in a tailored suit calmly reading your sentence before pressing the button. Her commentary cut through the show's smug, self-congratulatory vibe like a sharp steak knife slicing through butter. Tofu and steak knives aside, Megyn didn't stop at tearing down the performance. She went straight for the jugular of The View's whole operation. Because let's face it, The View isn't really a talk show. It's a collective hallucination, fueled by reheated liberal talking points and inflated egos. Every episode plays out like a masterclass in cognitive dissonance, where logical fallacies breed, multiply, and then quietly die off. Megyn wasted zero time sugarcoating the truth. She called out the glaring reality. Putting an aging ex-president on stage who can barely finish a sentence, then treating it like he's delivering the Gettysburg Address? That's not journalism. It's interpretive fiction. And not the fun kind, the kind you scribble on a cocktail napkin during a 3-day bender. And it wasn't just Biden's stumblefest that Megyn tore apart. It was the hosts themselves. Whoopi Goldberg, now seemingly channeling the spirit of delusion, nodded along to Biden's incoherent ramblings like she was picking up divine messages through a jammed earbud. Megyn likened the whole scene to a church revival led by a glitching animatronic. Just when you thought the absurdity had peaked, in walked Sunny, her expressions flickering somewhere between a worried citizen and a law student forced to endure a soul-sucking PowerPoint. Megyn's take? Sunny's version of journalistic integrity looked like a fortune cookie run over by a Prius. The mental gymnastics she performed trying to explain Biden's fourth contradiction in less than 2 minutes were so intense you half expected her to exit with an Olympic medal and a chiropractor. Then there was Alyssa, the human LinkedIn profile, nodding solemnly like she was auditioning to be the voice of reason in a room full of sentient toasters. Megyn didn't hold back. She called it exactly what it was, a group therapy session for the bewildered. Allergic to honesty, Alyssa played the desperate intern trying to remember everyone's name, but every one of her comments landed with the impact of a post-it note tossed into a hurricane, completely unnoticed and ultimately irrelevant. But Megyn wasn't just annoyed. She was fascinated, like someone watching a cult documentary unfold live, only with less conviction and more bronzer. She pointed out that if political denial were an Olympic sport, the women of The View would have swept gold, the Paralympics, and probably even the Puppy Bowl. The amount of energy they expended trying to convince viewers that Biden's slow blinking wasn't a red flag could have powered the entire East Coast during a blackout. And then came the wardrobe choices. Megyn didn't hold back. She joked that the host looked like someone raided a discount cruise ship costume trunk in total darkness, each outfit screaming, "I'm relevant," while quietly whispering, "I lost a bet." One particularly sharp jab described their fashion sense as inspired by Pinterest boards made by people who think sequins count as a personality. And yes, she even took aim at the set design, saying it looked less like a talk show and more like a high-stakes roundtable where everyone was voting on which shade of denial to wear next week. That hot mess called The View had to issue not 1, not 2, but 4 legal corrections. 4. And that's just what aired on camera. Don't forget their debate fact-checking, where they only fact-checked one side, and when their checks got fact-checked, they cowered in fear. This pattern is obvious. The set screamed diplomacy, but the conversation played out like an infomercial for the world's most confused political party. And you could tell Megyn was loving every second of it. She didn't just critique, it was a full-on takedown. Megyn didn't just critique The View. She performed a full-on autopsy, complete with jazz hands and theatrical flair. Every remark came packed with snark and just the right touch of exasperation, making it clear she was genuinely baffled that this show still exists outside the realm of pure satire. Just when you thought she might catch her breath, Megyn dialed. The sarcasm up to 11 and dove head first into the heart of absurdity. She tore into the alternate universe. The View inhabits a place where applause lines are scripted before a single word is spoken, and facts only get a seat at the table if they've been soaked in emotional outrage and sealed with a tear from Joy Behar. It's a world where volume equals truth. Critical thinking is left at the door alongside common sense and any hint of shame. Always the chaos connoisseur, Megyn broke it down like a melodramatic soap opera pretending to be journalism. She revealed how The View has mastered the art of building echo chambers so airtight they could survive atmospheric re-entry. Disagreement isn't just frowned upon, it's treated like a declaration of war. Then there's the baffling Christian girl lecture, when an assassination attempt happens, saying God was watching me and not others is very unchristian and narcissistic. Megyn called out the absurdity, saying she should have pulled the plug on that mic, because no genuine faith talks like that, with the implication that God watches out for you but not those monsters. Try suggesting nuance or asking a tough question on that set, and you'll be excommunicated faster than you can say teleprompter malfunction. Megyn likened the panel to backup dancers desperately auditioning for relevance, their choreography built on synchronized avoidance of reality. The View isn't just a talk show, it's a chaotic ballet of outrage and jazz hands fueled by judgment. Its soundtrack, a relentless loop of buzzwords and virtue signaling layered atop the soft hum of self-congratulation. In Megyn's eyes, Watching The View try to tackle real political discourse is like witnessing toddlers attempt to defuse a bomb with finger paint and glitter. Loud, messy, occasionally terrifying, and guaranteed to make you question humanity's survival odds. But what made Megyn's takedown so masterful wasn't just the sharp critique. It was the cold precision she wielded as she peeled back each layer of the charade. She kept a deadpan expression and an eyebrow so sharp it could slice through steel, because ultimately, what she revealed wasn't merely the chaos of a floundering presidential appearance. It was the slow-motion crash that The View itself has become. It's a place where common sense goes to wither, where complex ideas get flattened into sound bites, and every opinion is judged not by depth, but by the volume of applause it earns. Megyn didn't just flick a match at this circus. She RSVP'd with a flamethrower and a detailed list of every contradiction they desperately tried to bury afterward. View fans gasped, clutching their pearls in disbelief that anyone dared challenge. Their cackling coven, but the rest of us? We laughed, relieved that someone finally voiced what everyone was thinking. The View isn't a TV show. It's a support group for folks who think a single Google search confers expertise. Megyn Kelly, patron saint of zero tolerance for nonsense, didn't just roast the set. She power washed it, sandblasted off the glitter, and slapped on a giant neon sign that said, "Try harder." So the next time Biden shuffles onto a set thinking it's a deli counter and The View's hosts launch into synchronized praise dancing, just remember, somewhere out there, Megyn Kelly is sharpening her wit, ready to deliver another eulogy for whatever scrap of credibility remains. And honestly, we're all better off for it.